Razorback Nation, welcome back into another episode of your Razor Recap, brought to you by Scarlet Letter and Jared's Kickin' Sauce. Go check them out if you haven't. Both local to Arkansas. Scarlet Letter made right here in Northwest Arkansas in downtown Springdale. So go check them out. And Jared's Kickin' Sauce, slowly expanding brand, great sauce. Go check them out. They have their website, and they are slowly making their way into different stores here in Northwest Arkansas, in the state of Arkansas, and expanding slowly. So go check them out. And we'll just jump right in here. So it got announced today. You know, we knew Arkansas was going bowling, but the question was where. Well, we now know. It seems like it's a tradition to get to go to the Liberty Bowl. We've been several times already, and we're going back again. But this year, I don't think there's as much optimism for this bowl game, and there's many reasons to that. You know, all the guys transferring out, just how the season went under Sam Pittman. Not to mention the opponent, Texas Tech. You know, it's going to be a tough game. You know, they had several high-scoring games, and over a 1,500-yard rusher, 1,500-yard passer. So it's going to be a tough matchup for Arkansas either way. And then you factor in all the guys that are leaving, entering the transfer portal, or think like Andrew Armstrong, Lane Jackson, guys that aren't going to play and just start prepping for the draft. So it's going to be a tough one. But your initial thoughts on Arkansas getting to go to the Liberty Bowl once again?
It is what it is. It's an extra time to, another time to see the Hogs play before the offseason. And you know what? It's almost like it's going to be a completely different team, right? So this is you got to think about it. It's your only shot to see this team play ever, right? Because, we've seen the team this season play. Okay, that's fine. Well, next year it's going to be completely different as well, right? There's going to be a whole bunch of people come in through the transfer portal. So this is your only time to ever see this group of guys play. And it's going to be the only time to ever see this group of Texas Tech players play. So, I guess if you think about it like that, it's kind of like can't miss opportunity. But, back to reality, it is, Memphis again, make what you want of it. But like I said, it's just another time to go see them play.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you'll see a lot of guys that maybe you weren't used to hearing their name called this season. You might have to look them up a little bit because if you think about it, offensive line, don't want to get too deep into it because we'll have our preview for the bowl game specifically later on this month. But you got to think about it. No Patrick Kudus, no Josh Braun on the offensive line. No Andrew Armstrong, no Luke Haas. So your starting receivers will most likely be a Jordan Anthony, Isaac Tesla, maybe Broden, Monte Harrison. No word on whether Jaquindon Jackson will play. I would assume he might play unless he just says, hey, I'm going to go get ready for the draft. And if that's the case, and say Braylon Russell does decide to come back, that would be your probably best opportunity to see him as getting more opportunity as in type of lead back role. So, like you said, you'll see a different team than what we've seen all season this year, what we'll see next year with changes coming. And then defensively, like you said, no Landon Jackson. Who knows? I'm not sure about Eric Gregory or not. He said he was declaring for the draft, but I don't know if he's going to not play in the bowl game or not. We'll get some more info when they start practicing and we kind of get some depth charts. Cam Ball be back, Xavier Story. You may see some of these linebackers play. And then some young DBs. It's going to be interesting for sure to see this team. And, you might get glimpses of guys that could be in line for a bigger role next year in several positions across the board, offense, defense, both.
Right. So the one that I'm looking forward to see the most are the defensive ends, right? You got Quincy Road, and we've seen a taste of him this year. He was a little quiet, but anytime that he was on the field, I felt like he made a difference. I feel like he could be the same type of player that Landon Jackson was. I mean, he's basically the same height, same weight, put a little bit more muscle on him over this offseason. He could be real dangerous. And then you also have Charlie Collins and Cavion Henderson, the true freshmen this year. Nothing in this game counts against them for their red shirts. So they're going to have 4 more years after this regardless. So why not go out there, show what you can do, and maybe give the fans a little bit of hope for that position at least. And then at receiver, it's kind of like it's bare bones, and it's like that last hurrah for Tesla and Broden, I guess. But I'm also kind of interested to see how Monte Harris does, right? See what his role, and see if he can actually become someone that is useful next season. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like you said, there's going to be a lot of young guys that get opportunities, like you said, across the line. I'm also thinking about guys that are probably getting more snaps as well. Cavion Henderson, Charlie Collins, Ian Gaffard, guys like that they played a handful of snaps here and there this year, but they're going to have to step up and take on a little bit bigger role for bowl game and going forward. And those are extremely talented guys, but you just didn't see a ton of them this year because of the experience that you had back with Landon Jackson, Nico Davier, Cam Ball, Quincy Rhodes, Eric Gregory, all those guys kind of ahead of them. So, Maurice here says, I think the Hogs are going to be fine playing a freshman. I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. They're going to have to step up, a lot of these guys. If you think on the offensive line, who you got left to protect Talon, you already know Carmona's coming back. Keyshawn Blackstock, he had up and down season, very much so. Tykees Crawford, kind of a last hurrah for him. He's a senior. You have Kobe Branham that played some this year. Addison Nichols, I mean, as far as we know, it's like a lot of these situations, we assume he's coming back right now until he officially says, hey, yeah, I am, or no, I'm going to hit the portal. You got Josh Street that's played some, Luke Brown, Marion Harris, Joe Moore, that he's a redshirt senior that he's done, so he might get some playing time in this game. So it's like you said, receivers is going to be interesting with who's left and who's going to be playing, but then also who's going to be on this offensive line trying to give Taylor some protection, and who's he going to have in the backfield with him? Are you going to have a Jaquin Jackson kind of wanting one more game to show NFL scouts what he can do? Or is he going to say, hey, okay, I'm good. I don't know who I'm going to be running behind, so let me just take this time to prep for the NFL.
Right. And, the thing is, I'm not as excited to see that as I am the ones that I mentioned before, like, defensive end or wide receiver. But and mainly it's because I don't have a whole lot of confidence in who's behind them right now. They are young, and, I'd really like to see a lot come from the portal. But this is their opportunity, right? I mean, Texas Tech has a defensive line, and we'll see whether or not they can hold up to it, and see maybe what guys we can use in the future there. So, hey, I'm open for everything. So show out and give us a good game. That's all you can ask for at this point.
Yeah, and you got to think you look in the secondary too on defense. You don't know how many of these guys that are seniors that will necessarily play. I mean, you'd think most of them would if they're not necessarily declaring for the NFL. You got Nico Slaughter, Jaden Johnson, both guys, they're seniors. Hudson Clark, redshirt senior. Anthony Switzer, redshirt senior that's played there. You did have Dallas Young, a guy that didn't play a ton this year, enter the portal. Metcalf boys, you're going to see a lot of them. They're going to be key figures in this secondary next year. A guy like Selman Bridges, didn't see a ton of him this year, but with guys that between injury and guys leaving is going to have to step up for next season. We saw Jalen Braxton enter the portal a few days ago. Another one that we kind of thought was coming the way, he didn't play since Oklahoma State. there was some confusion on his injury, and don't want to get too deep into cryptic tweets and things like that. But after he announced he was entering the portal, he tweeted "trust" in all caps, and so that could mean a lot of things. But I think what people think that might be referencing to is maybe his injury was mismanaged, because if you remember throughout the season, at one point it was tendonitis, then it was a bone bruise, and then it was just a leg injury, and then he was supposed to return to practice, but then never did. So who knows what's going on there? There's a lot of things you can look into that, but at this point for the bowl game, it's like you said, and I've seen people say, it's kind of going to show you who really wants to be here and who wants to step up and maybe get a head start on next season.
Right. And that's unfortunate how that played out, and because that was a key guy to bring back. Now we have to go in and try to find some people who can at least fill in the secondary, when I thought that maybe they had quite a good foundation there, even with the guys that are leaving / transfer them out. And now I don't feel as confident as I did before. So yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, especially like Danico Slaughter leaving. Miguel Mitchell, he has one more year, right? Because he didn't play a whole lot this year.
I think he was actually they were able to redshirt him, and bowl games don't count against your red shirt, so should be able to see more of him. He's a guy that like you said, didn't see a ton of him. He came in and transferred over from Florida, and is a junior, so he is able to maintain that red shirt, and if he doesn't leave, should be back next year, and I would think be another guy that is asked to step up. But on the talk of the secondary, Arkansas does have a guy visiting, I believe, tomorrow, and decision will be made on the 12th. That number 1 or number 2 overall defensive back JUCO from junior college ranks visiting. That will make his decision on the 12th, and he's down. I think his top 3 is Arkansas, UCLA, and Virginia Tech.
Okay. Yeah, that's really spread out geographically.
Right. And that's the thing that what's going to get busy starting tomorrow is tomorrow the portal officially opens. All these guys are saying that are going to enter the portal. Well, tomorrow is when all that's official. Their names will get submitted. They'll start getting contacted. I mean, if we're being honest, they've probably already had some contact, the quote unquote tampering, if you will, but and guys can officially start committing and things like that. So who knows?
Yeah, like the Patrick Kudus. There was, he has a crystal ball to Ole Miss right now.
Yeah.
And there was this whole thing about him I don't remember when
I know what you're talking about.
He had an interview where, he talked about how, people are born, raised to hate a team, and his team was Ole Miss, and now he's got a crystal ball there. So
it's like, oh, really?
You have to, I mean, there has to be tampering, because there's no way you're going to convince a guy who, if he was being honest, hates Ole Miss. You're not going to just convince him to go over there, by not talking about, hey, this is how much money you're going to be making if you come over here. So that's definitely what it was.
And that whole situation is weird too, to begin with, because he was specifically, they managed his snaps and what games he played with or played in this year. So he could be redshirted, but Pittman had told him, hey, we're going to do this and make this work and redshirt you as long as you're going to decide to come back. Well, they ended up making it work where I believe he didn't play against Louisiana Tech and then played against Missouri. And then all of a sudden he's entering the portal. So it's like, what changed was something done from Pittman was like, well, maybe you should go ahead and transfer. Or was he kind of just like, well, I'm kind of over it here, so I'm going to head out. It's a weird situation. And it's still one of those things that we still have no word from Pittman. No, we haven't heard anything. You'd think maybe tomorrow you'd have your regular Monday presser with the bowl games and everything announced. I think there was supposed to be some type of bowl game teleconference tonight. Don't know 100% on that, but I
No,
think it's going to be interesting, and I want to see what Pittman has to say his first time meeting with media, especially after the number of these guys that have entered the portal already.
yeah, I think he'll probably just keep it close to the chest. I don't think he's going to go into it a whole lot. Maybe if he's hopped up on those painkillers, he might let his tongue slip a little bit, but I don't think it'll be anything world breaking. But yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, that's ugly too, right? And maybe this is what like hardens Coach Pittman, and maybe he'll uh, build something that's a little bit different than what he's been building, because now he's probably like, you know what, screw this. These guys are not always here for none of them are here for this. They're always here for the money. We're gonna rule with an iron fist now, and that's either going to be bad or it's going to turn things around. Who knows? That's the way it was with Bobby Petrino. But different game now because everyone gets paid and everyone gets to go somewhere else. Now there's some rumors about the transferring being limited because of all this, so maybe that might help. But nothing's set in stone. Nothing's officially. I don't even think they've made they've scheduled a meeting to vote on it yet, so we'll see. But that would definitely help. And you know what the other thing is? I was talking with a friend, and a lot of these guys are just going because they think they can get something better somewhere else, and I feel like a lot of them are overplaying their hand a bit. I mean, you see that a lot too, and that's coming from just like a person to person type aspect. That sucks because these guys who have a good situation where they're always just looking and seeing green, the grass is greener everywhere else, and there's not a official like outlet out there that tells you this is what you're worth, on the market. And you're just getting told by your family and then friends and an agent how much you can go make somewhere else when that might not actually be true.
Right.
And I wish it was like a real estate market where you can put someone can assign a value to it, and then you can negotiate from there. And then whenever the coaches go into the portal to look for you, they know what they can spend on you and it be accurate, and have it some kind of third party, like a 24/7 Sports or Rivals or On3, whatever. But I feel like something like that needs to happen so these kids aren't just listening to what their agent and what their families and their friends are telling them, because it might not be good for them in the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. You mentioned 24/7. I said that's kind of the only indicator you have, because if you look at the transfer portal rankings right now, Kudus is ranked as the third overall best transfer in the portal right now.
Right. And that has everything to do with skill and nothing to do with how much you can make at another place.
Exactly.
So there needs to be that distinction. Like, hey, you might be very, very good and you could help us a lot on the field, but you might not be as worth it, because if you're a quarterback, you're going to make a crap ton of money. That's just how it is, because you're the face of the program. You're the people that everyone wants to work with. You're the one who's going to get the most deals whenever, for local businesses and advertising, stuff like that. Random offensive lineman, no matter how good you are, you're not going to get those type of deals. So your NIL value is going to be down, if that, makes any sense. So there's just nothing. It doesn't matter how good you are. It matters how much you can make in NIL, and there's no gauge, an accurate third-party gauge for these kids, and they just go out there blindly and they hope it works out, and then it doesn't. So yeah, there needs to be some kind of distinction between those two. And On3 kind of does it, but I don't feel like theirs is very good. It's more like how much they think they're making now versus how much they think they're worth on the NIL market.
Yeah, and that makes sense. but yeah, when you look at it, like just thinking about these rankings we talked about, inside the top 15, there's 2 Arkansas players. Like we say, Kudas comes in at 3. At number 15, you do have Luke Has, the tight end. He's a guy that I was really hoping we would have come back. That that one hurts a little bit because he has an enormous talent. But just it didn't seem like he was utilized this year as much. And I mean, I wouldn't blame him in that case for wanting to go somewhere that maybe prioritizes tight end play. But yeah, it's tough. We're going to see a lot more movement this week. You're going to see guys visiting. We have a guy, I believe, visiting this week as well, a receiver from Fresno that played under Petrino. I believe he's visiting the 11th, Ryland Sharp. He played for Petrino at Missouri State, wanted to come over to Arkansas last year, but I don't think there was any room with all the wide receivers and everybody we had returning. And so he went over to Fresno State in the Mountain West. And so now he's on the move again. And I think if any type of quote unquote crystal ball, I think there's a good chance he ends up at Arkansas with Petrino once again. And can't forget about Ronnie Fouch as well, that came over from Missouri State. So 2 connections that he had at that time when he was there. So
yeah, and he was a former 4-star, was he not? I think he was ranked, and then he's, for whatever reason, he went down a level. But I'm not sure on that either. So we'll see. And it's not like these guys are scrubs either, because there's a guy who plays for SMU now who and I can't remember who it is now. But there's I'm pretty sure he's on defense who's like a big contributor for SMU, and they're a playoff team now. So and we can go into that if you want. I got some hot takes later, but still, no, it's so whenever you see Missouri State, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. It's sometimes these guys can be good. I mean, just look at Andrew Armstrong, came from Texas A&M Commerce, and he's arguably a top 5 receiver in Arkansas history, right? You can argue, he didn't get a whole lot of touchdowns, but the only person who did get a whole lot of touchdowns is Jaquindon Jackson. So
100%. So yeah, you're about to see a lot more ramping up in the portal this week as it officially opens up tomorrow. And we'll keep you updated on what we hear, but there's just so many. Hayes Fawcett over there at On3 has been working overtime with the amount of tweets that they're putting out as far as this guy's entering the portal, this guy's entering the portal, and then on signing day, this guy signs here, this guy signs here, or he flips here. So it's just a busy time in the world of college football with, like you said, you had the college football playoff announcement today, bowl games coming out today, guys still declaring for the portal, things of that nature. So a lot going on, and it'll be a little bit of chaos for the next few weeks. And then, like I said, waiting to hear a presser, what Pittman has to say on as far as the bowl game, the guys leaving, things of that nature. So it'll be an interesting next few days for Arkansas to see what's going to happen. But with that, so we will go ahead and we can jump over to Arkansas basketball, where Arkansas came off that win from Thursday last week. I think, Thursday against Miami. Getting a good win on the road there against another power, or on Tuesday that we talked about this past week. Came back home, played UTSA this week, and this was a game Arkansas won by 15. If you watch this game or if you just watch the first half, man, it was not pretty for Arkansas whatsoever. But they figured out, got it going in the second half. And I think this was a good game for Arkansas. I was telling one of my buddies this, where you saw them figure out a way to get a win without Big Z, as he was out with his ankle injury, not having his, 10 to 12 points, hitting the threes like he normally does. You saw this team finally get a, win without that help. And I think that kind of gives you some optimism there. You also saw the big thing for me was, one of the two big things for me was you saw Jonas Adu play 27 minutes, jump up from 12 against Miami to 27 here, and then also Nelly Davis seems to be heating up a little bit now. Had a decent game against Miami, come out, put 13 points against UTSA, 3 of 5 from deep. So, maybe he's starting to get his rhythm back. But overall, Arkansas gets the win here, thanks to a good second half, which has been a role reversal of how things have been this season.
Yeah. And, I mean, if we think about it, the biggest thing they've missed this season is other than 3-point defense, because that's been horrendous. The biggest thing that they've missed this season is a true threat from the 3-point line, right? And you can say, the biggest one right now is Big Z, but I mean, he's a big. So it's not like he can sit out there all the time. If Davis can keep this up, this is going to be huge for Arkansas. And, Boogie Flan, he had another freshman type game. He took 7. Well, this is the second half. He took 13 shots or 11 shots, made 3 of them. Not good, right? Can't have that from your point guard. But then again, you have guys like Davis who can come in and help out when needed, and then Thero, which obviously he does crazy stuff all the time. You know what I liked? I liked seeing Brazil out there too. I mean, he didn't get a whole lot of points, but he was showing some stuff that we've seen before in the past, and putting him in a supporter role rather than like the up front guy. I think that's going to help him a lot in terms of, not feeling like he has to do too much when he's out there, and he can just go out there and play like he used to play. So that'll be good. So I'm glad to see those bigs coming around, both of them, Adu and Brazil.
Yeah, I agree. That was another thing too. Seeing Adu get the work. 8 points. He probably should have had probably 10, 12 points. There's a few buckets that he missed right around the rim there in that first half. But, to come out, he hit both his free throws, 7 rebounds. You can tell he's starting to get his legs under him a lot more now. You can still tell he's not 100%. But, for him to come out and play 27 minutes in this game is big, especially as you're getting closer and closer to conference play. You got Michigan coming up on Tuesday in the Jimmy V Classic. Michigan's 8-1, and their top scorer is their big, who's 7 foot. So hopefully Big Z's back, and then you can have a rotation, to help guard him of Big Z, Trevin Brazil, and Jonas Adu.
Yeah, and I liked how they played Adu and Brazil at the same time a lot against UTSA. And I feel like whenever you go up against a legitimate elite big, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have a lot of guys down there. And the good thing is, if you've got people who are athletic like Brazil and Adu, who can be a rim protector, but also help out, on the perimeter as needed. So it's great to have that type of versatility in the front court.
Exactly. And I mean, we're talking about all this, but I mean, it's like you also can't forget to think about like the game that Thero had. At this point, we keep highlighting him, and he's just doing this over and over again. I mean, he comes out and puts up 26 points for Arkansas and has, some big plays again. 8 of 10 from the field, 10 of 13 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, double-double there for him. Plus 18 on the plus and minus. Like we talk about it, sometimes not everybody pays attention to that plus or minus, but to be plus 18 in a game is insane. And he's kind of just been that steady guy that, you can count on. And then hopefully we see more consistency like Nelly Davis, on average come out and give you 10, 12, 13 points. And then hopefully every now and then he can have a big, 20-point game. Boogie Flane, for the most part, you're going to get decent games out of him every now and then, like a game like this or a game like the other day. You're going to see against Illinois, you're going to see freshman quote unquote type games from him. And I think you're just going to see more and more from like Jonas Adu and Trevor Brazil and Big Z as they get fully healthy. Hopefully they can throughout the season.
Yeah. And you know what's really impressive? So one of the big reasons why Arkansas struggled against Illinois, there's a lot of reasons why they struggled against Illinois. But offensively, Adu was getting to line, but he just wasn't hitting his free throws. And you look at Saturday's match, Adu went 3 for 6 in the first half. And then he ends the game 13-16 from the free throw line. So he was perfect in the second half. So that's what you want to see, right? That's a big step up for him. And if he can get to the basket and he can, one, make it, or two, draw a foul, and he can hit those consistently, that's going to be a big deal for him too.
100%. I mean, I think that's going to be big either way you look at it. And it's like, if you can get these guys playing together, like you said, seeing Brazil and Adu play together has been fantastic. I mean, to be able to have more big size on the floor, because I wanted to go look at it real quick. So Michigan's bigs that they play two bigs. You've got Danny Wolf, that's a junior, 7 foot 250, and their other big that both these guys play about 27, 24 minutes a game. So you're going to see a lot of them on the court at the same time. Vladislav Golden, a Russian, 7'1", 250 as well. So they've got some size down low. So, 2 7-footers, you're going to need, hopefully, and even if Big Z is not 100% healthy, to be able to go out and contribute. We saw him play through that injury a little bit against Miami. He didn't play a ton, but he came out and played and gave you some good minutes. And then Adu and Brazil to step up.
And you know what's going to be good? If Big Z can play, him going out to the 3-point line, I mean, you're going to pull those bigs out of the paint a lot with Big Z. So on the offensive side, it could really help the guys like Wagner or Diro who like to go to the basket. So that's going to be
These
great.
These guys are going to try to slash and drive.
Right. Yeah. Really stretch out the defense. And that's basically what Big Z is. I mean, he can be a rim protector on the defensive side, but I don't see him primarily as a guy who likes to play in the post, on offense. So that's going to really stretch him out, I think.
And I think that's the big thing whenever you have like Adu healthy and you can play those guys at the same time. You have Big Z that's going to be your stretch big, can kind of pull some guys out. And then you have Adu that's your true big that's going to get down in the post, back guys down, and work down low for his points. And, that was even, something I noticed with Adu too, is he's a fantastic passer and assist guy. He's a guy that numerous times gets the ball kicked into him. And there was one big play where he gets it kicked into him and he immediately fires it out to Nelly Davis in the corner for 3. And so just being able to work the ball inside out and know that we'll have an inside presence. He plays 27 minutes this week. Depending on gameplay, foul situation, I could see him playing 27 to 30 minutes against Michigan as well.
Yeah. And I mean, just put 2 bigs out there. You could probably have him and Big Z out there for 25 plus, minutes. Heck, even maybe 30. But I do want to touch back because I feel like I was a little, hard on Boogie Flan. The last time against Illinois, he, how he had his freshman game, he also didn't have a whole lot of assists. Against UTSA, he had 7. So he led the team in assists, and heck, 7 was as many as UTSA had the entire game. So whenever you're having a bad game, I'm pretty sure the last time we talked about it, that's what you're going to need to do if you can't get the ball in the basket, is get it to your other guys. And that's what he did. So you're seeing growth right there. And against Michigan, I feel like he's going to have to probably do that quite a bit. They're pretty good, especially down there in the paint, like we've been talking about. So
I was about to say they've
not
also
just
got a couple of guards out there too that
yeah.
you look at their main guy that leads them in points and steals, Roddy Gale Jr. He's a guy that he averages 12.2 points a game, 3.6 rebounds a game, 3.4 assists, and shoots 49% from the field. And he's a junior, 6'5", 205. So Boogie's going to have a good matchup against him, or whether it be you've got Roddy Gale as one of their main guys, Trey Donaldson, another one, junior 6'3", that he's averaging 12 points a game as well.
Yeah.
So these guards are going to be tested in this game as well. You know, Boogie and DJ and Nelly.
And you know how whenever they played Kansas for the exhibition game, we were probably really high on what Boogie was doing, right? And at least I talked about how good their guards were at defense. And then you look at the last 2 games Kansas has played, 76-36 or 63 loss to Creighton. And then today, shocker, Missouri 76-67 over the Jayhawks. So maybe that was a little bit inflated performance. I mean, I hate to go that far, stretch it that far, but because they also played very well against UNC, and then they beat Duke last week or the week before. So, but yeah, no, that's it's a little bit concerning going forward. So we'll see. I still think Boogie's that dude, right? I'm not saying he's not, but he's not going to be able to do what he did against them all the time, and as we've seen now.
Yeah. And one guy to talk about, we talked about Trey Donaldson. He's going to be a guy that Arkansas is familiar with, or at least Coach Cal as far as conference-wise, because he's a guy that he transferred over from Auburn. He left Auburn after last year, and this is his first season at Michigan. So he's a guy that's been around the SEC. I mean, this is a completely different Arkansas team. The only 2 guys back from last year is Trevor Brazile and Lawson Blake. Other than that, all these guys are new. I mean, you had DJ Wagner and Adu Thiero that came over from Kentucky, so they're probably familiar with him as well. But, these freshmen here, Jonas Adu as well. So a lot of these guys will have known or played against him last year when he was at Auburn. So he's a guy that they're going to be familiar with and kind of be able to go back and look at some tape, especially Coach Cal, as they prep for this game.
Yeah. And you said Donaldson? Who was it?
Yes, Trey Donaldson.
Yeah, Trey Donaldson. Yeah, and he's their second leading scorer. I mean, look at those numbers too. Their top 4 scorers, average one of 12 points, but they're very consistent, right? 12.2, 12.1, 12.1, and 12. So it's not like you're going to be able to focus on one guy because the other 3 are going to be able to but and that's what I fear like they're going to do with Arkansas. If you can handle Thiero, which is kind of what Illinois did, you can really hurt Arkansas because he's the main scorer. He's the main guy. But yeah, so that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, that's going to be key. It's like, and that's why you're going to need guys to step up. Is if you shut down a guy like Thiero that's been our consistent guy, other than like a couple games, who's going to be that next guy up? We saw Boogie step up the other night in Miami, have some key plays down the stretch late in the game. Nelly, if he's starting to get going, that'll be big. And then if Jonas Adu gets going once he's playing more minutes and kind of gets in the flow of things, that'll, I think, definitely take a lot more pressure off some of these other guys, and will probably open up guys like Thero, if they don't have to just, essentially laser focus on him. So that'll be something to, look for in this game with some of these guys getting back healthy.
And that comes back to, Boogie, right? He's going to have to be that true point guard, right? He's going to have to be able to get the ball to the people who are in a position to score.
Right.
And not just give it to Thero and let him go. So they're actually going to have to play team ball is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And with Boogie too, if you come out and you figure out in the first, 8 to 10 minutes, hey, maybe it's not your night. It's like you said, you kind of switch gears a little bit to, hey, if I know I'm not going to have the best night, not saying to just completely not quit trying to score, but maybe go a little bit more on the realm of getting those teammates involved, sharing the ball, having those high assist nights, like he did against UTSA. And I think that's a tough part, because he's going to want to come out and have a good game. But I think there'll be a point where he'll have to figure out, hey, this is not my night, because it's like this the old ironic saying of shooter's going to shoot. Well, he's going to go out there and try to score, but I think there'll be that point of he'll figure out really quickly, are they going to be able to, is he going to be able to do his thing like he has done for a lot of season, or he going to have to kind of, like you said, be that true point guard and have to help get his other teammates involved in the game.
Right. And the thing is, once he gets other guys going, that's going to open, doors for him too. So you got to think of it. I feel like he's got to think of it that way. If he's going to go out there and he doesn't have the touch that night, quickly, change the mindset, be a distributor. And then whenever he can be opportunistic instead. Right. And then he can go in and, take a drive whenever the lane opens up or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you've got Nelly who's getting hot, right? You got him, and then you've got obviously Thero, and then you got those bigs, and they're starting to get it together. So I feel confident going into and I'm not sure why that made me so confident that win against UTSA or the comeback, right? That's more or less what made me confident, and seeing the bigs play the way they did, and of course Nelly. But that's what's going to have to be the formula going forward, right? Or at least if he starts out cold in a game, anyway, quickly change to distributor and maybe opportunistic. And the thing is, if he does that, he'll still get a lot of points. Because there's a lot of talent on this basketball team, a lot of guys who can be dangerous on the offensive side. So having the focus taken off him is actually, I feel, a good thing.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So, like we said, this will be another good test for Arkansas against a, quote unquote Power 4 opponent as they get ready to take on Michigan on Tuesday in the Jimmy V Classic. Should be another good matchup. Prime time, playing in Madison Square Garden. It doesn't get much bigger than that in the realm of basketball. So that'll be a fun test to watch as Arkansas will take on Michigan on Tuesday. We'll just jump over quickly and touch on women's basketball. We mentioned a few weeks ago not having the greatest of seasons so far. They're, to this date, they had a game earlier today they won, but they're 6-5 on the season. Got a win Thursday in the SEC ACC Challenge over Boston College. A good win there, 75-64. Beat SEMO today here in Bud Walton, 84-45. So a huge win as far as point total there. But I still think you're trying to figure out who this team is going to be as far as key contributors, because you see a handful of people playing. It's not like you have a set rotation. Mike Neighbors is playing 12 people in their rotation right now, and I don't think that's something as the season goes. It might work, but you see most rosters having success when you have a 9 to 10 person rotation, if you will. The one consistent person for this Arkansas women's team has been Izzy Higginbottom, the transfer from Arkansas State that came over. She had 28 points in this game. You saw Carly Keats, a returner from last year, guard 30 points in this game, hit 5 of 8 from deep. Arkansas as a team shot 7 of 25 from deep, so she was the one that hit big time for Arkansas. But I just don't know if you look through the rest of the schedule. I don't know how much of a success this Arkansas team is going to have down the road, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's tough. And, we talked about, maybe a change needing to be had. But again, like I put out, I'd rather keep him where he is right now than to, spend money on a buyout for him, with everything else that's happening in Arkansas sports. And that sucks. It really does, because he felt like he was like on the cusp of having a really good program going. And it just, in the last year, 2 years, really, it just fell apart, and that's tough. And, there's not much you can say about it. Maybe he can get something going back again, but I just don't feel it. And this year is going to be super tough too, because the SEC is probably one of the best women's basketball conferences. Obviously, you have South Carolina. I don't feel like South Carolina is the team that it has been. I think they're probably a little bit more beatable than they have been in the last few years, but they're still an elite team. They're still a national championship contender. And I just don't see, with what the talent we have on Arkansas's basketball team right now, that they have any business really being in the room with a lot of people in the SEC. I mean, you can go back to the first game of the season. I think it was the first game of the season where they just were destroyed by UCLA. No, it wasn't the first game.
It was the first few games, where they lost by nearly 50 points.
Yeah, 101 to 52. I mean, that's exactly what they did to SEMO. And I don't know, man. I just don't see a whole lot of promise coming this season.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, it is tough. So we'll jump back over. We had a comment here for talking about football. Russell says, Texas Tech is happy to get to go and beat a team that doesn't have a winning record on top of the nice weather in late December in Memphis. So, yeah, if I'm Texas Tech, blatantly honest, if I'm Texas Tech and I saw this matchup, I'm like, okay, here we go. Because just the way Arkansas season has been, I mean, I don't want to sound, like a broken record here, because we've said it over and over again, but you don't know what to expect. The consistency's not there. And then, not to mention, you're not going to have the starters that you had throughout the entire season. If you go and look at it, Texas Tech is a team that likes to throw the ball. You have Morton, their quarterback. He threw for 3,300 yards this year and 27 touchdowns.
Right.
You had Taj Brooks, their leading running back, 1,500 yards on 286 carries for 17 touchdowns. And there, right. I mean,
and I would caution a little bit, because the Big 12 is not exactly known for great defenses. So that's one thing I would say, and two, but I mean, they're not a bad team at all.
I mean, right? 8-4.
I mean, they beat Arizona State. Arizona State won the Big 12, and they're in the college football playoffs now. So,
and have that nice first round bye as well. So,
yeah, which Clemson did not get. But That's neither here nor there. I mean, I don't think they deserved it, but still, yeah. Arkansas beat a playoff team too, right?
Yeah.
We
Well,
gotta
you think
we gotta
about it.
look. I feel like if Arkansas had their schedule, I feel like it would look pretty close to what it looks for Texas Tech, 8-4. Texas Tech had a really bad game against Baylor. They got destroyed 59-35. And then they came back 2 weeks later and beat Iowa State for Iowa State's first loss, So they were kind of an up and down team this year too. As far as matchups go, I haven't looked into it, obviously, and we can go into that whenever we do the preview show for it. But I'm not like super worried necessarily. Like I don't know if we'll win or not, right? But as far as them being like an over match for Arkansas, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, and that might be the case. It's just going to be, like you said, the Big 12 is a little bit different than, the SEC. And like you said, Arkansas does have that win over Tennessee, which, it's weird to look back now to see that actually happened. But, I mean, you talk about the 8-4, Arkansas was what, handful of turnovers away from potentially being 8-4 as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they were a handful of turnovers away from being a college football playoff team, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah,
they were one or two. Yeah, but that's the way it is for a lot of teams in the SEC. You got to think about Alabama right now, right? They're 1 or 2 plays away from being it. They were a win from against Vandy from being there, and
you think they don't have that late season loss to Oklahoma? You probably have Alabama sitting in right now.
Yeah, and they had. You can talk about whether or not Vandy or Alabama should be in there, but they lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who are 2 of the like mid-ranked teams in the SEC. Right? They beat Georgia, but they lost worse games than SMU did. Yeah. That's just what, when it comes down to it, that's what it is for me. Sure, SMU didn't play anyone super hard, but they destroyed every single person they played. Mm-hmm. And then if you watch the ACC game, SMU, if they wouldn't have screwed up in the first quarter and gave Clemson a huge lead, they probably walk out of there winning by 2 touchdowns. SMU is a good team, so I don't think Alabama should have been in it, especially with the talent they have. They shouldn't have lost those 2 games against OU and the other one, Vandy. They shouldn't have, but they just haven't been consistent, and I don't think that should award them a spot in the college football playoffs. And this whole argument about, well, what's the point of, scheduling all these hard teams if we're not going to, that's not going to be counted. Well, guess what? That all the hard teams that Alabama played was in their conference schedule, right? You don't get to pick that. SEC does. You know who they played? They played Western Kentucky. They played USF. They played Wisconsin. And they played Mercer. So don't give me like, oh, we're just not going to play anybody hard. You didn't play anybody hard this year other than the people you had to play. So like, get away from me without all that, because I think that's something that Nick Saban said. I'm like, bro, you're just trying to get Alabama into the playoffs. That's all it was. And, I'm not a big like, oh, well, they lost 3 games, so they shouldn't be in. I think they're the best team should be in. And I don't think Alabama's all together that great of a team because they're not consistent. SMU was consistent. So anyway, that's my not my rant for the day, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, not 100%, sure how accurate this is, but they're reporting too, actually, that just on Alabama, that and this is per reports from Brett McMurphy as well over at Action Network, that Jalen Milroe said he's going to come back next year.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I feel like whenever I say Alabama was inconsistent, that's really what I mean is Jalen Milroe was inconsistent, right? Plus, the board needs to get himself a good defensive coordinator. That's what he needs to do. He needs to go talk to Nick Saban and say, hey, who would you get for defensive coordinator? And they'll be extremely good. Because and then make sure that, Milroe, plays like the quarterback he should all the time instead of just half the time. And they'll be the same Alabama we all know and hate. So I don't
Fair.
I don't know. That's all they need is a couple things: consistency and a better defensive coordinator, and they're back to Alabama.
Yeah, I mean that's true. As far as thinking players returning, transfer portal, and things about that. As far as in thinking about guys entering the portal, we know Jalen Braxton just entered the portal for Arkansas. Well, his younger brother, that was the quarterback at Marshall this year, is entering the transfer portal. Imagine if that would have been something that if Braxton would have stayed, Arkansas could have went after his brother. That would have been a weird thing. But his brother had a
Did
heck
you
of
say
a
quarterback
season.
or cornerback?
Quarterback. His brother is a quarterback for Marshall.
Yeah.
He had 1,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season this year for Marshall, and I believe they won the Sun Belt as well. He was his brother's entering the transfer portal with 1 year of eligibility, so he may be older, but was the Sun Belt Newcomer of the Year in 24 and Sun Belt Championship game MVP.
Yeah, I mean that might be a talking point. Who knows? But the thing is, I also feel like the bridge might be burnt there. So
Yeah,
I'm hoping
100%.
not, but maybe. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Yeah. Don't get off too much on a tangent, but that kind of wraps it up for us. We'll be back on, middle of the week for our, regularly scheduled episode. We'll talk about the Michigan game, the Jimmy V Classic, what other portal news we have. I'm sure it's going to keep getting busy. Who knows if Arkansas has more people enter? If we'll have all the insights on guys that we're talking to, visiting, things like that. But it's going to be the next 2 to 3 weeks is going to be an insane one as far as when it comes to transfer portal and Arkansas football. As you get ready for bowl prep, you have all these visits, guys coming in. You're trying to get guys to come into the program and things like that and get buy-in and things. And so, it's going to be a busy next few weeks between basketball, all the transfer portal news for football and now bowl game prep.
Hey, so it looks like just before we get off, Sam Pittman, I guess, broke his silence about since all the stuff has happened. But it's just about the Liberty Bowl. I guess that's the one that they pushed for. So if you're mad that they're going to Liberty Bowl, I guess you can blame it on them. So
well,
but I mean that's
how much of the say does the school have on what bowl game they go to? I know the bowl games or the people that run the bowl game invites the school. So could you have gotten multiple invites, but you're like, oh well, we wanted you get an invite from the Birmingham Bowl, and then you get an invite from the Liberty Bowl, and it's like Sam's here saying it's the one we pushed for. It's first class rent, and we wanted to go back. So
right. And yeah, that's exactly what happens, right? You have all these bowl games that reach out to teams, and then not every team gets this luxury, but they'll decide which one they want, or they'll lobby, right? It's very political, right? You'll go out and you'll search out the people who run these bowl games, and you'll be like, hey, this is what we have. This is this is what we'd like to do, and we'd love to come play for your bowl game. This is how much market we can get for you, and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. And with the Liberty Bowl, I mean, they've been there 7 times now, 4 in the last 15 years. So
Yeah. Plus, I
it
mean,
just seemed natural.
in any other year, I'd say this, that bowl game is one that makes it easy for Arkansas fans to travel to, whether you're in Northwest Arkansas or Central Arkansas. Memphis is just right there. You're not going to have to travel far, which would ideally mean better turnouts. But I mean, I'm just going to say that's not going to be the case this year, I don't think. But
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people in Central Arkansas that, don't get to see the Hogs all the time. And now it's only a few hour trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially Central and Eastern Arkansas. So it might be pretty good. Who knows?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what press conferences we'll have this week, if they'll have their like regular Monday one, and he'll get more in depth in some other things. But we'll just have to see. But we'll keep you updated on what we hear, and like I said, all the news and things that we get, and we'll do our best. So keep in touch with mine and Austin's Twitter pages, whatever you want to call them. We're going to keep you updated there as much as we hear, and then we'll be able to talk more in depth later on this week, as we will have our regular show. So until then, keep your eyes out there. A lot's going to be happening in the next few days, and we'll be back this week to let you know all the insights and what's going to happen.